Welcome to Gen FM, your trusted companion for simplifying complex conversions, bridging diverse measurement systems, and exploring the practical impact of units in everyday life and beyond. In today's episode, we'll answer an intriguing question. Why is there a temperature divide between Fahrenheit and Celsius? Here's something wild. If you took every thermometer in the world and laid them end to end, half would show one temperature scale and half would show another. And that divide has led to everything from ruined recipes to lost spacecraft.
That's such a strange split when you think about it. How did we end up with two completely different ways to measure the same thing? So what made his approach so different?
Well, it all goes back to the 1700s when two scientists basically started a temperature war without even knowing it. Daniel Gabriel Fahrenheit created his scale in 1724, and let me tell you, his method was pretty fascinating. Well, here's what's really interesting. Fahrenheit actually used a mixture of ice, water, and ammonium chloride to set his 0 point. He chose 32 degrees for freezing water and 212 for boiling, creating exactly 180 steps between them. Pretty precise for the 18th century.
Though I have to wonder if he realised his system would still be causing confusion centuries later.
Right? And then along comes Anders Celsius in 1742, who basically looks at this and thinks, what if we just made this simpler? 0 for freezing, 100 for boiling. Done and done.
That does sound much more straightforward.
You know what's really wild, though? Initially, Celsius had his scale completely reversed. 0 was boiling and 100 was freezing. It wasn't until after his death that someone flipped it to what we use today.
Well, that would have made things even more confusing than they already are.
Speaking of confusion, let me tell you about this fascinating incident at NASA. In 1999, they lost a $125 million Mars orbiter because one team was using metric measurements while another was using imperial. A simple conversion error led to the spacecraft basically disintegrating in Mars's atmosphere.
That's an incredibly expensive measurement mistake.
And it's not just space exploration. These conversion issues affect everything from medicine to climate science. When scientists talk about preventing a 2 degrees Celsius rise in global temperatures, many Americans don't grasp the severity because they're thinking in Fahrenheit.
So what's that actual conversion? Help us understand the real impact.
That 2 degrees Celsius increase actually translates to 3.6 degrees Fahrenheit. And when we're talking about global average temperatures, even a single degree can trigger massive changes in weather patterns and ecosystems. We're seeing evidence of this already in the Arctic, where temperature increases are happening twice as fast as the global average.
That really puts things in perspective when you think about it that way.
And you know what's fascinating? The United States is basically alone in this. We're one of only 3 countries still primarily using Fahrenheit, along with Myanmar and Liberia. Every other nation has switched to Celsius.
So why haven't we made the switch? It seems like it would make international communication easier.
Well, there was actually an attempt in the 1970s to convert the US to metric measurements, including Celsius. Congress even passed the Metric Conversion Act in 1975, but it was voluntary and, well, you can see how well that worked out.
Sounds like changing an entire country's measurement system is harder than it looks.
Oh, absolutely fascinating case study in cultural inertia. The UK's transition to metric is a perfect example. They officially switched decades ago, but people still use a mix of both systems. You'll hear Brits giving their weight in stones, measuring road distances in miles, but using Celsius for temperature.
That must create some interesting situations in international business.
You know what's really telling? Manufacturing companies often have to create 2 different versions of their products, one for the US market and one for everyone else. It's estimated that this dual system costs American businesses billions of dollars annually in conversion-related expenses.
That's a pretty hefty price tag for sticking to our own system.
And here's what I find most intriguing about this whole situation. It's not just about numbers anymore. It's become this fascinating intersection of science, culture, and identity. The way we measure temperature actually says something about how we see ourselves in relation to the rest of the world.
That's quite a philosophical take on what started as a simple measurement system.
Well, when you think about it, these temperature scales are really just different ways of trying to make sense of our world. Whether we're using Fahrenheit or Celsius, we're all just trying to understand and communicate about the same reality. We're just speaking slightly different languages to do it.
So what you're saying is, it's less about which system is better and more about understanding each other.
Exactly. And maybe that's the real lesson here in our globally connected world. The ability to translate between different ways of thinking and measuring might be more valuable than having one universal system. Though it probably wouldn't hurt to keep a conversion calculator handy just in case. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed learning with us, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Gen FM. Join us as we simplify the complex and explore the fascinating world of units. Stay curious, and see you in the next episode.